Hello, everybody. Welcome to Absolutely Obscure with Josh and Rory. I'm Rory.
I'm Josh.
And this is a podcast where we watch movies you've never heard of and we talk about them. How are you doing today, Josh?
Not too bad. I'm excited to talk about this one with you, actually.
Yes. For loyal listeners who we don't have any, we'll be honest at this point. You may have noticed that the title of this episode is not El Cortez.
That's right.
Which is the movie that we had originally said. This is the first time, and hopefully last time this happens in the podcast. For the first-time listeners, we choose the movie that we review next at the end of the last episode. This time, I went to go find that movie, and I could not find it.
Because you did a search at the begining before we started that they were all available somewhere.
Exactly.
Obviously, with over time, stuff like that changes. So we'll just make sure to do a better job of checking beforehand, right?
I'm sorry to have failed you, Josh.
I mean, I when we talked about it a couple days later, I couldn't even remember the name of the movie, so I wasn't like heartbroken.
Yeah. And well, I was disappointed because it was the first movie that we'd picked that sounded okay. It starred Lou Diamond Phillip, who I love as an actor.
That makes me sad. I didn't know he was,
Yeah, now I've disappointed you further. So this is not El Cortez. Instead, we are reviewing the movie Hex, which was a 2002 movie. It was directed by Chris Johnston and Andy Michelodi or something like that. He doesn't care. And it was written by Hans Rodenoff. Now, this movie had 3.4 out of 522 reviews on IMDb, and 334 people on Letterboxd have rated this movie.
And on IMDb, that's a 10-star scale, right?
Yes, 3.4 out of 10, which I'm guessing, because of a little bit of talk beforehand, that's low for you, Josh. What'd you think of this movie, Josh?
I don't think it ended up coming up, not to keep dwelling on Bleeding Hearts, but I didn't specifically say that. I remember you mentioning it off the top. The IMDb rating for that was like way too high. It was 5 something, I think. For
Bleeding Hearts, no, it was like 1.5. I'm pretty sure.
I think our hearts wanted it to be that. It was higher than because I remember being mad.
Well, I remember you being mad. I'm just like, and I thought it could go much lower. That's why it's like you're doing it a little bit, but because you despise that movie.
I did. But anyway, so let's talk about this one, which I would say, you know what? That's I guess on my scale, I had it a 3, but out of 5. Like I was
okay. I was just like that. But out of 5.
Yeah,
okay.
On Letterboxd, I put it as a 3.
You know, that's I can see how you get there.
Yeah. We'll get there. We'll get there.
This is a movie about a cursed. This is a movie about a cursed skydiving formation. Which immediately I kind of see how you get a 6 out of 10 because of that premise.
In fairness, I think that's the worst part. Like that
you think that's to me that's the best part is how silly that is.
Okay, well well like I said, we'll talk about it. And yes, we're just hearing you say that sentence is hilarious. But
I think the problem is that the movie takes it so seriously.
Very seriously.
This is a very serious movie. About a cursed skydiving formation called the Hex.
Yeah. It was funny because I was thinking when just from the title alone, Hex, I was like, this got to be about a curse. And then when I watched the trailer, I was like, oh, it's a skydiving movie. Yeah. And then when I started, it's like, oh no, it is about a curse.
It's about both?
Like, because when they were just talking about a formation, I was like, oh, it must be like a hexagon. Maybe that's the shape there.
Yeah.
But it's like, oh no, it is a full-on curse.
Now, Josh, have you ever been skydiving?
I haven't, no.
Have you ever wanted to go skydiving?
I think there's something, like I'd like to do it, yeah.
Should this be a bonus for this episode as we both go skydiving and we do the Hex?
You know what, the fear I have is like I'd like to do the tandem jump, you know? I want to not be involved. Like I know you're supposed to pack your own chute and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't trust myself to do that well.
That's fair.
So I feel like I want a pro to do it, you know? And especially the other thing, I'm really bad with my lefts and rights. And, you know, they have the one conversation where they're like, all you have to do is pull this one and then this one. And I was like, what if I mix those? I would need like gloves being like, okay, step 1 in case you're going to die. Step 2 in case you're going to die.
You should always have those gloves. You should just have gloves on you all the time that just say left and right.
I've thought about getting tattoos. And I've also thought about getting them on the wrong hand, but I feel like that would
fuck you up so badly, Josh. Like, that's a fun tattoo for people who don't mess it up.
Yeah.
For you, that would be, you would, I say this with love, you would not last a week.
No, that's all right. But yeah, this one, I thought it was the easiest movie to take notes for.
Yes.
Because it was very formulaic. Like, there wasn't...
It's almost, it is very funny how formulaic it is. They act like skydiving is like the coolest thing, and that it has its own culture that we all know.
Yes.
That everyone knows skydiving culture, of course. We all know that all these characters are the kinds of characters you'll find at a drop zone.
Well, so this is, like, should we just get into
Let's
it now?
get into it.
Because it starts with, what, there's just I guess it kind of starts with there's a skydiving interspliced with, like an actual ritualistic,
yes. Yes, it starts with, we see a skydiving accident, of course, occur. Some
pages of demons in books, and blood pouring into something.
Yeah, just cut between skydiving and this ritual happening. Ends with a thud, and somebody comes up and steals this guy's altimeter. Yeah, I don't know. I should have paid it. I should have written that down.
I feel like I tried to so many times. I'm like, I still don't know what it is. I think it's an altimeter.
Yeah, well, it's a thing that tells you how far from the ground you are. So
and
whatever that's called.
It was on 0.
Yes.
It's zoomed in on it, and it's on 0, and then it flicks to 1, I think?
1, yes. Which is important. I'll be honest, I did not notice that for most of the movie.
I will say, this is the first movie we're watching it a second time really cleared up any sort of weird things I had.
Yes.
Like, I did have a lot of complaints about it, but I also think that's, like, this isn't a movie that I would be like, trust me, the second time you watch it, it's great. The second time you watch it, it's less bad than the first time.
Yeah, I could understand that. Yeah. It makes the picture clearer.
And, like, so, for instance, for, like, the ritual, I didn't realize that was happening. The blood was being poured into the altimeter during the opening credits.
I did not know that either.
Well, that's, like, of course, because it's nonsense.
Yeah, it's mostly nonsense.
Yeah.
And then we cut to 10 years later.
That's right.
Which is now. And they jump out. It's them jumping out of the plane. Or it's her.
It's
just
her by
character.
herself. That's right. This is what I wanted to get. This is hilarious to me.
Yes.
She's, like, dancing around in the air. This is my second favorite skydiving opening since, like, Power Rangers. So I
gotta say, it's getting a little bit into it earlier. The skydiving, like, footage is actually excellent.
I mean, if we want to just get it out of the way, that's maybe it's both of ours, but that's my standout of the movie for sure.
Absolutely.
The shots in the air are actually really gorgeous.
It's my assumption that the two directors is one guy for the air and one guy for the ground stuff, and whoever shot the ground stuff, don't do it again. You don't have to be a director. Not everyone can be a director.
Even the one rollover shot of just it's, like, not a nice looking park.
No.
Like the landing zone or whatever. But it was actually really nice. Like, you could see wow, look at the gray in that dirt. You know, it was like,
this movie is so fucking gray. Like, everyone looks like they're dying before they get cursed.
So we have our main girl, Sarah. Right?
Yes.
She's skydiving by herself, doing her thing.
And we later find out that she only jumps by herself. She's the lone wolf of skydiving.
This is my favorite thing, is that they act like anyone who skydives by themselves is a loser.
Yeah.
Like, she immediately comes down, and Payson, our male lead, I guess.
In a way. I mean, he literally disappears halfway through the movie.
What's that called when it's like he's introduced like he's going to be the male?
Yeah.
Is that a MacGuffin?
Yeah, I guess so, a bit. But he's introduced. He's super flirty with her. Yeah. They have zero chemistry together.
Yeah.
One thing I heard today about, like, lower budget movies like this is, like, you can get away with anything if the acting is good. Oof. And the acting is not good here.
I will fully admit that I don't know what happened. This first scene, this opening scene of them on the tarmac, whatever, she's folding up her thing. Guy comes over, introduces herself, like, you're a loser, you should jump with us instead. I don't know if it was the ADR was so bad. Also, none of the lines were, like, directed into camera. Like, imagine if our podcast was, like, facing this way, like the chairs were turned around, and you'd be like, what's happening, right? Like, I know they're talking to each other, but
it seemed off.
It was shot very badly.
Yeah.
So this opening scene, I was like, this movie's gonna be fucking terrible. I was not happy, but I don't know if also I just grew into the bad acting and the whatever, got used to it.
Like, it's not the worst acting you've ever seen. It's better than.
I wondered if it was like the first thing they shot,
It
and
might have
maybe
been.
it would just took them a bit to get adjusted. Maybe,
Yeah, maybe they were learning how to shoot a movie throughout, and they started with that scene, and they'd never done it before.
Yeah, and then. Because, they kind of, what he suggested, we also kind of meet his team. Do we meet his team yet?
Yeah, we meet the 3 white guys. I did write down their names. They're 3 generic white guys.
They are 3 generic white guys. They have Hasten's the leader. I have Wade, the funny guy, because he's not funny.
No, yeah.
Evans, he's kind of like the wise one. He seems like he's been doing it. He's a little weathered.
Evans, the man who's like 10 years older than all of them.
And they act like he's the same age.
Yeah.
And then I have Greg the hunk.
Greg, the guy she eventually sleeps with for no reason. Yes.
And then the other girl, Lisa,
the other girl,
aka the bitch.
She is like, we don't. In no way are we trying to be mean. She is such a bitch. This is it's insane.
This is 100% a men writing movie, and they're like, how do women don't like each other, right?
Yeah.
So okay, another girl comes in. She hates her, obviously.
She hates her, yeah. No, this is just like men being like, well, there's only 2 kinds of women. There's the women we want to sleep with, and then there's bitches.
The women who want to sleep with us, who hate those women we want to sleep with.
Exactly.
Because, he's just basically being like, they're kind of bugging Pace and like, oh, you're still trying to get Sarah or whatever.
Yeah, the new girl at the drop zone.
And then... Lisa's immediately like, why? We don't like her. It's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, they've never taught it seems like none of them actually know each other that well.
I would say an instant way to make this movie better would have been if she was like glad another girl was joining the group.
Yes, absolutely. It would have given her any other characteristic, and except then maybe angry all the time.
And then maybe had a little tension if she did get mad at her later in the film.
Yes.
Yeah.
She would be 2-dimensional then. Right now she's 1-dimensional.
Yeah. And we did also we briefly saw Creepy Old Man.
Yes, creepy old man who obviously is the villain. He's immediately we're just like, oh, that guy's the bad guy.
I mean, they literally only play sinister music when he's on screen. I was like, you're giving away who the bad guy is in this entire movie. Every scene he's in, it's like a little stinger of like eerie music.
Like, it's so obvious that it's like, okay, well, that's the guy they want us to think is the villain, and then it's going to be revealed that he's not, and then it's just like, no, he's actually just the villain.
Yeah, they weren't smart enough to write that.
No, they were just like, what the fuck's a MacGuffin?
Oh man, and
the lines here, it feels like a skateboarding movie in a lot of ways, where they're just like, oh, the new girl in town.
Yeah.
And, oh, everyone knows that.
Insert extreme sport here. Yeah.
Yes.
And that's what they do.
It's very stereotypical. It feels like Triple X for the first 5 minutes. Except bad, of course.
Except worse, yeah.
It's hard to get better than Triple X.
I haven't seen Triple X in a really long time, but I assume my memory of it being great is wrong.
Probably. Well, Vin Diesel movies, I don't think hold up very well in general.
Yeah, that's probably true. I do like too many of the Fast and Furious movies, but
yeah.
So did you write down the masturbating line?
Yes, he doesn't masturbate right. That was something said in this movie.
Yeah, because we introduce the team, and then he immediately goes back. It's like now them in the parking lot, like the same day, like 5 minutes later, and he's like, "Seriously, you should come jump with us, though."
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, now she's
jumping by yourself is like masturbating. Right. It's fun, but it's never fulfilling. She's like,
it works and it doesn't pinch, but it's kind of depressing. And then she says, "I don't think you're masturbating correctly." Or
which,
right, or whatever.
I mean, she's right.
Yeah, it was good.
He's obviously not masturbating correctly.
Yeah,
but
she burned him good.
But also, that's a stock line, right?
Yeah.
Like, I've heard that in so many other things, and they were definitely like, "That's so funny."
Yeah, no, they thought this was the best line ever.
And admittedly, it is the best line in the movie.
I have one later that I think rivals it.
Oh, I'm excited.
Yeah. And then he invites her again, and she kind of says, "Oh, to church."
He invites her to church,
That's right.
Which I don't know about you, but I immediately was like, fuck, is this secretly a Christian movie? Is this going to be like a weird skydiving Christian movie?
That's funny. I didn't think it was church only because I felt like it was like going to be a fake thing that they called church.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
I mean, we used to have that.
That is, I didn't want to, I was like, oh God, the people don't care about this. But that is what made me think it.
Yeah, we used to have a comedy writing session that we called church because we did on Sundays. And we never wrote a single joke.
No, it was basically we'd all hope this one guy who was really funny would punch up our jokes.
Yeah.
And then when he wouldn't show up, we'd be like, no.
I guess we'll just watch some Mike Tyson mysteries.
That was fun.
It was fun.
And then, then we like get to meet her mom.
Yes.
She goes to her mom's house.
Briefly, who will play a pivotal scene later in the movie.
I forgot she was even introduced.
Yeah, her mom.
Because her mom at this point, she has ducks and she makes bad tea. That's what I have written about her.
And also kind of a bitch.
She basically is like, you move too much and you're a loser.
You move too much and you're a loser. And oh my God, you still jump? I'm going to disown you again.
That was weird, yeah.
It was very weird, and it was very obvious to be like, okay, her dad was the person we saw die in the beginning.
Yeah. And then I like that her like defense is like, oh, I'll have you know, even though she didn't want to hang out with these people, she's like, I'll have you know I got invited to a thing tonight. And the mom is genuinely like, oh, I hope you go to that. And she's like, fuck, I didn't want to, but
yeah.
And then she does.
Yes.
So she goes to church.
Which is a mountain that they base jump off of it. Which I was immediately like, that's not high enough to base jump off of.
That made me realize I never want to base jump.
Yeah, I would never base jump. I don't know the logistics behind that one specifically.
I don't know. It looked like you had to pull a chute immediately.
Yes.
I feel like I'd want to. I'd like to do it in like an old paratrooper thing where it was just attached to a line that it pulled automatically. Again, this is down to my own incompetence, not really thinking I would do it in the correct amount of time.
Yeah. So basically they go to this base jumping spot, which I like because they're just like, well, every town has this. I'm just like, every town has a base jumping spot. And I don't know about you. I kept being like, what do these people do? Because we never see anyone do anything except for skydive.
So happy you brought this up. What are these people's jobs?
And
where they can afford to go skydiving every single day.
Every day. And like they agreed to meet her the next day, be like, crack of dawn. It cuts to middle of the day, very obviously shot in the middle of the day. They were not getting up early enough.
One time the guy says like, meet you dark and early.
Yeah.
Like dark. And yeah, it's like you said, bright, full sun up in the sky.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
But yeah, this movie takes place, I'd say, over 4 or 5 days, and nobody you see doing anything except skydiving.
They were pumped with the skydiving shots for sure.
And I'm just like, what? Where do you get money? Yes. So yeah, they go there. There's more flirting. They all jump off church, and they're just like, meet you the next morning, and then it's noon the next day.
This I love. Too, when they're at church, everyone like says hi to Sarah at least to be like, oh hey, how's it going? Blah blah blah. And Lisa's like, she's right here. And Lisa's like, why is she here?
Yeah.
It's like,
that's one I put down, just being like, what's wrong with her? Why is she like this? And like it is said later in the movie that her and Payson used to date, or she wanted to date Payson.
I think both of the.
Yeah, and it's just like, that's not a reason.
That wasn't a good enough reason. No.
Not for she wants to kill her. I'm pretty sure. That would have been a good way to improve the movie if Lisa actively was trying to kill Sarah, and we never found out why.
The base jumping. Yeah, my favorite part about the base jumping is that Greg goes he jumps off, and then they have a conversation about doing the hex.
Yeah,
and then you hear Greg be like, "Are you guys coming?" Or
that was actually pretty fun. Being like, "What are you guys doing?" So we should describe the hex at this point, because they agreed to try to do the hex, and they're all like, oh, I can't believe we want to do the hex, which is very funny to me that they decide to do this apparently super difficult maneuver with someone they've never jumped with before. But
they need 6 talented jumpers.
They need 6. Rule. But basically it's they start heads down.
They're all upside down.
And then one of them is in the middle, and then they flip, and he's on, and the middle person ends up on the outside. and the person that they flipped with is on the inside now.
Right, and also, so while they flip, the whole ring kind of flips. So now they're all feet first.
Yeah, I'm realizing it's becoming very difficult
very hard to
explain.
The guy literally uses action figures to explain to the dumb guy of the group, and I'm still like, "Hey, wait, can you do it? Rewind. Can you do it one more time?" I don't understand it.
Yeah, I like how they made fun of him, and then he was just like, "This is actually pretty good." I was also like, "That we needed that too." To be honest,
I would have dreaded if you tried to draw it on the whiteboard like the other guy too.
But it's hard to explain to us. But I have to say, watching it, I'm just like, this doesn't look that hard. Like, I don't know much about skydiving.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess the complexity comes in with like your legs, like getting all tangled up. Maybe.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, they mess it up the first time.
That's right.
Because they're like, Sarah's going to be in the middle for the first time, and apparently that's the hard
Lisa
position.
is pissed about
Lisa
it. By the way.
is
Obviously,
furious.
like we even have to explain it. She's so mad.
More furious than she usually is. But also, I wanted to point out that they say one of them's just like Payson's like, at these speeds, you guys could kill each other out there.
Could kill you.
And I'm just like, I'm pretty sure they all know that.
And there's like a brief line of like Evan. Oh, I think she asked about the hex when they're packing up for it, and Evan's like, "Yeah, it's called that because everyone who's tried it have died."
Mm-hmm.
And then Greg says that's an urban legend. I have Lisa is still a bitch.
That's,
pretty much just to that scene.
And Sarah's reaction is like, oh, everyone knows someone who's died. And I did look up the statistics because I'm just like, that seems unlikely that everyone who skydives knows. 1 in 100,000 skydives ends in death, which admittedly is high for, an activity. But I feel like you probably have skydivers who don't know people who died.
Well, also, it's because they're going every goddamn day, apparently.
Yeah, they do like 5 jumps a day. I'm just like, yeah, that's going to add up. You're going to die. Absolutely.
Yeah, it seems like you're trying to at that point. And then when they're up in the plane, too, before they jump, Payson's altimeters, it's stuck at 0.
Yes.
When they're up in the sky.
Yes.
What's going on there?
We don't find out till the very end of the last shot of the movie, basically. Again, I forgot about the altimeter the entire time until it became important, which is fine. But yeah, they mess up the first time.
It was a funny line in the plane too. I had is like when Lisa's being a bitch, and then Greg's like, "Oh, she can be so dramatic," and she's like, "Eat a dick, Greg." I did think that was funny. Like, yeah, that was good.
Yeah, Greg should eat.
Telling anyone to eat a dick, I always think is funny.
So they mess it up. They meet. Also. They no wait, sorry, this is for the next day. They decide to jump again, try the hex again, and
when they fuck it up, they immediately go to and in case you already from the clues haven't guessed that the bad guy's the bad guy, Payson goes over to him and he's like, "Did you do it?" And he's like, "Kind of, but not really. Don't worry, we'll try again tomorrow." Evil music plays.
Yes. And then they end up at a bar where
apparently a skydiving bar.
A big skydiving bar, which they're talking. They decide to do the hex again. Payson is going to take the middle part this time, which we will discuss later on why that doesn't make any sense at all. But did you notice that they agreed to meet the next day, and then she goes over to talk to the evil guy.
Yes,
and the bar empties out completely. Like, out of nowhere. There was people there.
They had a hard last call.
It was a
Rory?
full bar, and then literally 10 seconds later, there's not a single other person in the bar. And they're just like, sorry, the extras have to go or we have to pay them. We can't keep them any longer. I've been that guy being like, we gotta cut them.
That's very funny. Oh, I also forgot. Okay, I did have a scene that I liked before the bar. Did she buy beers at one point? Did that happen already, or was that the next day?
I think they buy beers at the bar.
Okay.
Oh, and they walk.
Yes, this is what I wanted to talk about. It's like, okay, the car. What would you say from the door of the beer place to their cars? Maybe 20 feet.
20 feet.
And they're walking so slowly, like they didn't know how to pace out the walk and talk. And
not at all. They walk so fucking slowly.
Oh my God.
They walk slower than any person I've ever seen because they're just like, we have so much dialogue and we have to finish it by the time we get
the car slightly further away. What the fuck? Oh my God. I was hoping you caught that. I did.
Oh my God. It was It was insane. I don't know. And like the beer they were carrying was just like they got sponsors. Good for them.
Yeah. Label out, obviously.
Yeah.
And
So the next day, it should be noted that when they go up the first time, one of them was like, "Hey, Sarah, if you flash the pilot will get an extra 1,000 feet of air."
She didn't fall for it.
She didn't.
Which I feel like a flight suit. That's got to be the most like cumbersome thing to try and flash anybody in.
Yeah, I can't imagine it's
and
nice.
Like, no.
It seems very tight. It seems like
I don't think it would have a lot of give in it.
So the next day they're going up and there's a couple in there, and the couple they convinced the woman to flash.
Right.
Which I was most just like, I didn't know you could have nudity on a movie you rent on YouTube. I'm just like, good for you, movie. You definitely felt you needed this.
My favorite thing. Well, what did you think of this guy and girl, by the way?
I gotta be honest, I forget mostly everything about them.
I mostly was like, this has to be the guy that owned the airfield or something. Or like I don't know why he was in it.
That makes sense. Yeah, I did have written down here, they made this movie because the producer befriended a guy who owns an airfield. Absolutely. That's the only reason. Because 95% of this movie is at
shot on the airfield, yeah.
Shot at the airfield. Also, I wanted to point out, we did get introduced to a character in that first drop zone scene. He doesn't have a name.
I didn't write it down.
I don't know if it's even said. It's the Asian guy who's talking with Sarah, and then he's never seen again. And I was just like,
That's why she does say his name. Oh. And then I would, because on the second watch, I was like, why did that guy get a name? And we don't see him ever again.
I thought he was going to be a character.
Big role. Yeah. No, never. He introduced Chris to the fans. That was about it.
That's true. But yeah, so they get her to flash the pilot. And
the new girl flashes the pilot.
That's flash who has an accent of some sort. I think
Ingrid.
Yes, Ingrid. So I'm guessing she's German or something. And they go, and he's just like, "That gets you guys another 1,000 feet."
And as she flashes, also turbulence hits. Big turbulence. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And, which I don't know if that does anything later in the movie.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh, Rory. Oh.
I thought so, but I was also just like, it doesn't make sense to the timeline that they put forward later in the movie.
Nothing does.
Anyways, they jump out, they do the hex, and Payson disappears from the middle of the circle.
Mid falling down.
Like, literally fades out like a ghost.
Yeah.
And everyone's just like freaking out.
Where the fuck did Payson go?
Which, admittedly, I would freak out too.
Of course.
And then they get a big, they go and they start a search party. Yeah. And it's funny that everyone's just like, he probably floated somewhere else. And they're all just like, I don't think so.
Yeah, it's pretty funny because they have like a character who owns an airfield.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm sorry, he disappeared? Yeah, I don't think so. He's probably on the highway or whatever. Big search.
And it's kind of weird that our characters never are freaking out completely. Like, if I saw you literally fade from existence in front of me, I don't think I would be sane ever again.
Well, yeah, and because then it's very confusing. But because there's a cop who's immediately an asshole to everybody.
Yes.
So we don't meet him until he interviews Sarah. It's implied that he's interviewed everybody else though.
Yeah.
And so by this point he's like, yeah, okay, right. The guy disappeared mid-flight. That makes a lot of sense. Mm-hmm. And then because with lots of the aerial shots and stuff, they all have GoPros on their helmets.
Yes.
So the cops looked at all these tapes, and Payson's not on any of them.
Right. Yeah, he's not on any of them.
Right. So it's like, okay, what the fuck is going on? It doesn't.
Are they saying that he was with them and they killed him before the plane even took off? But then it's also just like, they have cameras.
I thought it would have made more sense if they did the hex. Then they dispersed. Then Payson didn't arrive on the ground.
Yeah, that would make the most sense.
Yeah, the fact that he just disappeared is like, huh?
Yeah, it doesn't. That would be creative because that would leave mystery as to whether or not what happened to him actually.
Right. Yes.
Instead of just being like, I guess he's just disappeared. And then they decide to jump the next day, which is insane.
So stupid.
And also maybe that's what I was like, what do you do other than do you make money skydiving?
Also, there's a brief part where Wade is he's passed out, right? They do Wade sees Payson Like, and he's all like covered in blood.
Well,
and
this
stuff.
is so they decide to skydive.
Oh,
the
they
next
talk.
day,
That's
and
right.
then during that night they see Payson covered in blood.
Yes.
Like see visions of him.
Right.
Wade sees him. Evan sees him, and Evan's just like, Evan says that Payson says you're gonna be next.
Right.
We don't actually see that vision.
No,
because they couldn't afford to shoot another day.
We'll just say it happened.
Yeah.
No. And then they go or they meet up.
Yeah.
And then Lisa like bails because she's pissed kind of again. Which is like,
for reasons.
Why the fuck are you even going? The pilot's even like, I didn't think I'd see you guys here today.
Yeah. Your friend disappeared mid jump yesterday. I guess you guys got nothing better to do. Also, how much does it cost to skydive so much?
I really don't know.
I'm very curious about the logistics of this.
I don't, because my favorite, there's a day where it's like they don't go skydiving. It's raining, and then the pilot is also at the skydiving bar.
Yeah.
And he's like, oof, rough day.
Yeah. None of you guys are jumping today.
Are you getting paid per flight? Because you're making a killing off these 5 fucking teenagers or 20-year-olds or whatever the fuck. And Evan, however old he's supposed to be.
Yeah. So they go up, they jump, and Evans dies mid-flight. He just passes out.
Yeah, they do like kind of like it's funny because they're like, hey, we do what I think Sarah's like, what's shape are we gonna make or whatever the hell? And then Greg's like, I'm going by myself, which we've already established.
Yeah.
Loser.
Yes.
Only losers do solos. And then so Sarah's like, oh, I'll chase you, Evan, or whatever. And he jumps first. She goes, and then he's like limp in the middle of the air.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool to see. Like, that would be a terrifying thing. Like, because then she's trying to, I don't know.
Yeah, that was actually pretty thrilling.
Yeah,
trying to wake him up, being like, okay, I have to pull his chute for him, kind of thing. Like that again. Like that was very the stuff in the air is quite well done.
And again, I was thinking like, there's this limp man now floating. I was like, oh, he's going into some power lines. Let's do this.
This movie can't afford someone falling into power lines.
No, we see their CGI explosion budget a couple times in this.
Yeah.
They didn't have it.
No, they did not.
So he just kind of drags to the ground.
Yes. I will say, personally, if a ghost of my friend who I saw disappear came to me and was just like, you're gonna die, I would not go skydiving the next day. I would just be like, okay, I guess so.
I mean, if you're going to, though, heart attack mid skydive, that's a pretty good way to go.
That's a pretty good, that's up there. Yeah.
And then so Sarah gets to the ground, she's like trying to resuscitate him, calls over the other 2 guys, and then as she looks down, he briefly turns into Payson.
Yeah,
it's just kind of actually probably the only legit like jump scare I got.
Yes.
Where it's like, holy fuck, and out of nowhere kind of thing. And then it wasn't him.
It wasn't him. They call the detective again, and he's just like, oh, 2 of your friends died in literally less than 24 hours. And he's just like, yeah, that's a reasonable. It's starting to get weird.
Yes, it's funny as big of a dick that this cop was. I was trying to see it from his perspective, and it's like, yeah, this girl would be the prime suspect.
Yeah. I get why the other girl fucking hates you. I do like how they talk about her dad a few times, and they say like, oh, he was a skydiving legend. I'm just like, what does that entail? I would really love to know what a skydiving legend is.
He jumped.
He did a flip once,
and
he was the first guy to do a flip.
He was, he was big into the, I don't know, tandem. What did they do when they're all a group like that?
I don't know what that. Synchronized.
Synchronized, yeah.
Yeah, synchronized skydiving.
Your dad liked doing that.
Mm-hmm. Or he was the lone wolf, and he was the first one to pioneer lone wolf skydiving.
No, he had a team, and that's why she doesn't have a team.
Oh, yes.
She explains. I think, is it right now to Greg? Maybe.
Yeah, the guy she's about to sleep with.
They kind of he goes to her place. Oh, also the fact that she doesn't have a day job. Apparently, very nice house.
Huge house. Massive house.
And Greg's talking about how great her dad was, and she's like explains that the reason she doesn't have a team is because she just assumes that eventually someday someone skydiving that she knows is going to die, and she's trying to avoid that.
Yeah. And
then this is my favorite because Greg just acts like a baby, and then she bangs him. I'm like, wow,
yeah.
this girl's awesome.
Yeah, they sleep together for no reason. Again, zero chemistry. I forgot the guy was named Greg.
Yeah. No, and he like and then also after he immediately says something that is like off-putting, and I was like, this guy knows what's up. Like,
this was like their third conversation on this.
I think there's like brief things. There's like other people being like, I think Greg has a crush on you, but nothing actually showing that they have any sort of chemistry.
See, I even completely missed that.
Well, that's it. It's so throwaway, and it's like, first time watch, I was like, oh, this is the guy that she's gonna end up
because
with? Okay.
I mean, our assumption was Payson because he seemed like the romantic lead at the beginning. So then she starts hearing noise after sleeping with him.
She goes to investigate,
and then she comes back up to her room, and he's basically exploded.
And this is another thing that sucked. Like you said, they couldn't afford anything, so I don't know what they're gonna do. She just opens the door, and he's like a bloody mess in there.
Yeah.
Imagine like a nightmare, like Johnny Depp scene, right? But they didn't show you that; they just showed you the aftermath, and you'd be like, "What?"
Yeah.
And there was also like airplane noises going on in her room. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, she couldn't open the door, and then when she does, he's exploded, and then she doesn't end up in jail. I think she would definitely end up in jail.
This is the time where the cop actually says, like, 2 of your friends are dead and 1 disappeared.
Yeah.
Like, oh man.
And one of them died in your room from having, as it said later in the movie, every bone in his body broken. I think that's a little suspicious, I gotta be honest.
What would she do to, like, there'd be some sort of mess of, like, a weapon or something, Rory, you know?
I mean, I guess. So she does get taken to the police station, is picked up the next day by Wade, the last surviving white guy.
Man, that's another complaint I, like, do have about this movie is they really killed people in a weird order. Like, it's like, you end up with the bitch and the not funny guy,
which I mean, I kind of like it in that it's a little bit of a subversion where it's just, but it's also like we don't know any character well enough to even have like Lisa is the one with the most personality because she has one personality trait, and that's that she hates people.
After seeing Sarah just bang some guy that she was kind of into, I was like, I like this girl's attitude. She's great.
Yeah.
And,
so Wade comes, picks her up, and he's just like, this has to be a curse. Let's go get help.
Right.
And where do they go to get help?
The skydiving bar, obviously.
No.
Where do they go?
No, they go to her mother's yoga studio.
Sorry.
Because obviously, she teaches.
They find out they're cursed at the skydiving bar, right? From the pilot and Chris.
Right. I could have sworn that they just assumed that they were cursed because...
No, I think because he's basically... The pilot's kind of like, I can't believe you guys even tried the hex. You know, everyone's died.
Because it's called the hex.
Right. And he's like, Chris, you've been here longer than me, you know, right? And Chris is like, yes, everyone's died. And
everyone who has done the hex has died. Why didn't you tell me? I didn't feel like
Which actually, there is the first scene that you said where the bar cleared out. She specifically asked him, like, hey... we're gonna try the hex tomorrow. And he's like, good luck. Yeah. He doesn't say anything about everyone dying.
Yeah, this guy must be on the up and up.
So yeah, they go to the mom who we forgot was a character.
Yes. And because she teaches yoga, so obviously she has a link to the occult and can cure this hex for them. That is the logic of this movie.
I thought it was a joke where Lisa later's like, so you did yoga and now you think you know how to beat this curse, but it's like, the second time I was like, oh no, they are legitimately at a yoga studio.
No, that is 100% what they end up doing.
And so she tries to like connect her to, they basically just do like a Om thing.
Yeah.
And she all of a sudden, this is where the turbulence comes into play.
Yes.
She keeps flashing back to the moment they got turbulence on the plane.
On the plane.
Which I think at this first time it's just like a second kind of thing. And we figure out, or she like had a seizure. Yeah. And like started freaking out kind of thing.
I'll be honest, this was the type of the movie where I was fading pretty hard on, oh man, no worries. I have 30 minutes left of this.
This is the time, around the second time where I was like, this is the most brilliant movie I've ever seen. So I really took notes. So then what? They go find Lisa again, right? Because she's kind of...
they decide to go...
Oh, we forgot that we missed out the slap. After Greg died, And the cop called,
right.
you know, hey, way to kill all your friends or whatever. Lisa then comes in, just walks by the cop, slaps her in the face, and it's like, don't ever come around me kind of thing again.
Yeah, you killed my friend by breaking every bone in his body. I'm just like, I mean, that's...
Yeah. Which, again, I think would have had more impact if they were friends.
If they liked each other.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then so Wade and Sarah go find Lisa to her apartment. And
she's
listening to like death metal.
Yeah, she's listening to death metal. The music in this, did you watch this with subtitles on?
I
Because they
did.
give the names of all the
Yeah, they did.
And it's very fun being like, they got friends who make music sometimes.
Oh, yeah, I could tell. I didn't watch it with subtitles the first time. I usually do my second watch with subtitles. I knew just from the end credits.
Yeah.
Because every song was written by this person, also sung by this person.
Yes.
I was like, AKA friend of the band, or
Yeah.
friend of the movie people. And then, so they kind of are like, oh, we're cursed. And Lisa makes fun of them for going to a yoga studio to get help.
Yeah.
And then they're kind of like saying like, oh, you've seen visions too, right? And she's like, no. And then kicks them out.
Yeah.
And then as she's like about to light, she's able to turn on the gas.
She turns on the gas to put on a kettle.
Yeah.
And then she sits down. She has visions of
An explosion.
And then goes to light a smoke and explodes.
Right. I mean, it was the most slipping into Final Destination that this movie got.
Yes. Yeah. Near the end here, I was definitely like, this is a little too Final Destination-y.
Yeah, they went full on Final Destination at the end.
Very much. And it made me kind of angry because I'm just like, I actually wouldn't mind a real Final Destination skydiving accident. That would be good. That would be cool.
I did actually think about that. I was like, oh, that would have been a cool setting for a Final Destination.
I mean, we'll see what happens in number 5.
New one.
But yes.
And there was also, right before the explosion, Sarah looked up at the apartment and Payson like closed the blinds.
Yes. Which also, I just want to say, the guy's name is Payson.
Right.
That's a bad name. Don't name your characters Payson.
That's what I was going to say. This was like if Final Destination, they all ignored the symbols about how they were going to die and then just died anyway.
If they all got the premonition and they're all just like, nah, that doesn't mean anything. And then they just repeated that over and over again.
Well, I had this dream about every bone in my body breaking, but I'm sure that won't come into play.
I mean, to be fair, there was nothing he could do to it. He literally just explodes. It's not like he did anything. And then they go see the old guy. Do you have the old guy's name? What's his name? Chris. They go out to his trailer.
Yeah.
He pulls a shotgun on them. And then he just brings him inside and explains everything, basically.
Which, oh man, yes. He created the hex.
He created the hex to steal the lives of the people who die from the hex.
A demon,
Lenethro, which is a real demon.
I know.
I did look it up. Yeah. I'm just like, ooh, somebody found out about this demon and wrote a whole script around the demon of the air.
Which is fair because I didn't look really hard.
Yeah.
But everything I was just like, oh, this demon is the demon of the air.
Every single thing was that. That's all it said about it.
I was like, did they get their lore from this movie?
Yeah.
Or was
there was literally nothing else except for the demon of the air. Just like, what does that mean?
So this demon like told them basically make this a curse and I'll get their souls.
Yes.
You get their lives and their air talents because this guy apparently didn't have any jumping ability.
Yeah, he was not a legend of the air. He was not a sky god, as they say.
Oh, there was.
They say sky god a few times.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
And then this is where my funny line came in.
Okay.
So Chris is like, have I ever told you about the old days? And Wade's like, you've never said more than 2 sentences to any of us.
I can't believe I missed that. That's very good.
It's really funny. So, and then Wade, this is another thing where I thought it was like the characters should have died in different orders. Wade just starts like beating the shit out of Chris.
Yeah, Wade beats the shit out of him and then picks up the shotgun to kill him. And
and my other favorite part is this, after all the, hey, I created this thing with a demon to kill everyone, then fight outside, then Sarah's like, hey, wait a second, did you kill my dad? And he's like,
Oh, yeah. About that. I was in his jumping team. It's kind of sad that you're only realizing that now.
Oh, right. That was another thing was Wade was at the bar. He grabbed an old photo, and he's like, oh, hey, is this your dad's old jumping team? Was this guy look familiar? That was like was like on the way.
Yeah.
It was bizarre.
It didn't make any sense.
And then the shotgun like malfunctions. It like
backfires and shoots a
piece of shrapnel
into his face, but damages nothing else. Like an exploding shotgun, which is literally like a foot away from Chris and a foot away from and nobody else. Which I mean, it's fair because as we find out, it is Final Destination where everyone. And then so Sarah is like, how can I break the curse? And trusting the man who made the curse. He follows his instructions.
Yes, he's basically there's only one way to do it. And because does he also say at this? Oh, because she has like another fainting spell, and then it's back in the plane again for a brief second.
Yeah,
comes to, and he's like, "You're stuck between two realities right now. You're actually still in the middle of performing the hex."
That's at the very end, I thought.
I think it replays what he's saying.
Okay.
Yeah, and then he's saying how you're stuck between reality and this dreamscape that you can't, dream hellscape that you can't get away from, kind of thing. And you're gonna keep going back and forth until you die.
Yeah.
And
the only way to break that is by jumping and
with this ultimator.
Yes. And then she does it, and she just falls and dies. That's literally it. She just falls, and then, like
it's so bizarre the end because they keep jumping back to they're kind of implying that the alternate timeline is actually what's happening.
So basically what it comes down to is he basically just has to convince everyone to die in the way that they actually did on the plane. Everything we see after the hex is they die. Everything we see. So they jumped out to do the hex, and then everything else is basically like a dream reality where they didn't die.
Because so in the dream reality, my favorite part of that is one thing when every time Patience visits her, he keeps telling her to open the door, and so the like plane during the turbulence, she's by the door. He's like open the door or whatever.
Yeah,
and then he just throws the limp guy out, which I really like that.
Yeah,
and then the dude every bone broken in his body. Got like
he gets tangled his chute suit,
and he's
banging up against the plane. So basically, when the turbulence hit, the plane starts basically going down.
Yeah.
So they all died then.
Right.
And
explosion happens. Girl gets exploded.
Yeah.
Shrapnel flies in the guy's face.
Yeah.
So she jumps.
Mm-hmm. But it should be noted that earlier in the movie, she talked about how she wasn't sure if she would ever be able to cut the cord, which is when your chute gets tangled, you have to pull a thing, it cuts the cord and fires your secondary chute.
That was about the only bonding that her and Greg had, was she mentioned how that's like her biggest fear.
And then she's not able to do it and she dies.
So my favorite part was she does do it.
Yeah.
Lands, then Payson walks up and she's like being like, you don't know what hell I'm going through, and he's like, you still don't get it.
Yes, right.
Then it cuts back to her. Boom.
Yeah.
It's like, what the fuck is going on? And so now he walks over. It's basically kind of like the first scene. Mm-hmm. He walks over, takes the altimeter off.
It flicks up to 5.
Yeah.
And it turns out Payson was the demon.
Yeah.
Hey.
I did not get that the first time around. It wasn't until the second time, mostly because I think it was the subtitles. I didn't even hear the demon's name.
Oh,
so now I could see it. And then so when because then Chris comes up.
And he's
which
just like,
clearly in Last Day, like he was in his own t-shirt he had. He's like, listen, we got to get this in one because I'm out of here after this.
Yeah.
And he's basically like, oh, here's, your lives you get. And he's like, you're going to hell, man. He's like, and Litharos, what is it?
Lanathro.
Yeah, and he's like, I'll show you around.
Yeah.
Because that's where I'm from.
When I die, which he still has 5 lives now. So, but yeah, no, I'll admit I did not see Payson being the demon as a twist, but it's not like a good twist still. It's not. It's pretty.
Still very convoluted.
Yes. So you liked this movie?
I think there was things in there that could have made a good movie.
Yes.
I don't believe they executed it well.
I
My base issue with it is that the fact that the maneuver itself is where the curse comes from.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand, like, how, what? You have to do this simple move in the, you have to do this specific move in the air, and then this demon gets your soul. To me, that's dumb.
See, I love Final Destination, so I do like the Final Destination-y vibes of it. It's shot gross. It looks bad most of the time, except when they're in the air, and the actors are bad.
They are, yeah.
And the script is so just generic, but for the most part, like, I wanted to like this movie. You'll watch and you'll want to like, and that will get you over it.
And that's what I think. I think if, like we talked about, if they would have fleshed out the characters a little more, made the girls like, or not just made the second girl like, she hates girls.
Either make them friends at the beginning, or make Lisa try and actively kill Sarah. Those are you have to go one way or the other with it.
And like we were talking about, maybe any sort of misdirection about who the bad guy was, because it was like they basically told you from the very beginning.
Yeah, it should have been the one person of character, a person of color that we met at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, because even he introduced Chris.
Yeah,
like, and because Chris, I think Sarah was like folding her thing, and Chris kind of came over. He's like, give me that thing," and she's like, "Oh, who's that?" And then that guy's like, "That's Chris. He's been around forever." And which is like the first. That's when the evil music plays for the first. That's like, oh my God.
It would have been very funny actually if it was that guy that we hadn't seen since, and everyone would have been like,
maybe he just couldn't make it back for more filming. I don't know. Maybe that was the original plan.
Yeah,
but
no, it was a fine movie.
Yeah,
that I'll never think of again.
It was. I like I said, I think they could have tried, if they wouldn't have filmed the first draft of the script. Maybe there would have been something there. But I feel like this was they had an idea. They wanted to shoot some skydiving,
and skydiving season was ending soon.
Right,
they had a month. They had 2 weeks. All right,
fun movie.
So Hex. All right, so it's the end of the podcast, which means we get to choose the next movie for the next episode.
Okay, perfect.
All right, your 3 title choices are All Roads Lead Home, A Life in Suitcases, and The Waiting City.
Let's go. Oh man, 2 of those sound like Hallmark movies, which
I think all 3 of them kind of sound like Hallmark movies.
What? I'm curious. Why does he live out of suitcases? So I think I want to go with that one. What? Living out of suitcases?
A Life in Suitcases. Okay.
Yeah.
This has a 6.1 on IMDb with 304 votes.
Okay.
The plot description is Tulse Looper is swept into the ill-fortuned tides of the 20th century and forced to spend his life in a succession of imprisonments. I don't know what that means.
He time travels?
I don't think so. I'll be honest, this might be a documentary, which would be interesting. I will say its alternative title was The Tulse Looper Suitcases, which also makes no sense. But yeah, A Life in Suitcases or Tulse Looper Suitcases. We'll see what the fuck that's about.
Oh man. I was thinking it was going to be about like a musician or
I mean, it could be. We know
That's true.
All we know is he's ill-fortuned, and it's the beginning of. It doesn't say the beginning; it just says 20th century. So, and he's imprisoned in various times.
Interesting.
All right, you guys can check that out next time. Thank you guys so much for watching, listening. If you guys like the podcast, feel free to follow us, rate us 5 stars, please. Leave us a review. Anything really helps. We're just starting off here. We'd really appreciate any help you guys have. If you have
email us, right?
Yes, you can email us at absolutelyobscurepodcast@gmail.com. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all the places. All the socials, Absolutely Obscure Pod. We'd like to thank Matt Prince for our theme music, and we'd like to thank producer Jordan. Thank you, producer Jordan.
Thanks, Jordan.
And thank you guys so much. We'll talk to you next time.
Yeah, see you guys.
Bye.